What's up, my folks? I hope y'all are doing good. Out here with TikTok. He moves like a panther. Anyway, I had a few people ask me, and I figured I'd do a video on it because they're asking about the interviews, when we met, and all this stuff. So it's pretty interesting. I'll tell you how a lot of that shit goes down in these dogs isn't what you would think. Before we get on with the video, I want to say I'm not condoning anything illegal. I'm not trying to promote anything illegal. I'm just telling you guys how it was and how it was, just back the history of it, It wasn't always, it was kind of, the game was always kind of nasty, there was always shit talk. There was gentlemen in it and all, but there was always that, bullshit involved, People, would say things, sharp, smart shit, just to stir things up. But it was kind of one of them situations. It went from, I asked the dude how much this guy was talking up this dog. We were at a school in one time, and he was just talking this dog up like he was the baddest motherfucker in the world, and we didn't want none of it. And I asked him how much they wanted to get on him. I think he's a champion. I knew he won a few. They said he was a champion after. But and it was a high. It was a high price. I mean, the buying power of $2,500 back then was a lot. I mean, hell, I only gave $1,500 down for 7. You could put $2,500 down, and you could buy a house. You know what I'm saying? That's how much. It was like 10 now. So it was steep. So I never said nothing else. And then the motherfucker goes. It turns in from that to we're ducking them. Shit like that. So I said fuck it. Pissed me off. So I jumped on it. I jumped on the weight, and then that's when it really started. I had to endure fucking 8 weeks of hell from people that really had no business even nothing involved in it. Actually, the guy, the day before, there was a guy down the road that had the brother to him come down and try to do a side bet with me for $500. I'm like, man, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? But anyhow, we get there, and it's a show. There's several dogs going. There were some pretty high end dogs, famous dogs going. There was it was the two brothers. There was two brothers going that night that I went on one of them, and then you had I think it was the son of Ringneck going or whatever. He got smoked, but anyhow, it was a good time. I showed well, won convincingly. You know what I'm saying? And the Boyles boys were there that night, and that's where Bump comes into play. And it's kind of, that was, the guys that I was messing with were very top flight, okay? But you had different areas, people would think that their dogs was better in some areas, and some areas, it was always like that. But we always would meet in the neutral ground, and it was always 5 per side. I didn't, and most of the guys, I didn't like fucking with guys that messed with the journal back then, because that was starting to bring, it was still a time where you didn't have to worry, and you weren't really going to get in trouble if you got caught even, really. But, like now, definitely it's a no-no. Your ass will go to jail. But, so as the show's going, I'm from, I was fed up with all the bullshit and everything, and really the team that it was the bad boys, and the ones that had all the Tommy Walker stuff, and they had that dog, and they had a professional handler and a conditioner, and I can remember when I told him fuck it, I'll do it. I remember the boy going, you know how that dog's bred? I said no. I said, but you know how mine's bred? He said, no. I said, see, there you go. But, it was just a bunch of that kind of shit going on. And so after, I knew I stay with my dog right up till I know there's no chance in hell that I'm going to lose. You know what I'm saying? And I stood up to take a breather, and I'll never forget old Jay Boyles looks at me and said, hey, man, don't you got a black poison dog? Don't you got some off that black poison dog? I'm like, oh, hell no, I ain't got none of that Boyles bullshit. I just didn't want anyone to know how my dogs was bred back then, or how I was putting them together, because to be honest with you, we were putting together very, very high-end dogs that was doing good. I wasn't worrying about so much as the pedigrees, you know what I mean, as performance. But, and I wasn't telling them, it was a time where everyone bred pure, pretty much, and they were just starting to do the crosses. Paul was the cross man. He's the one that kind of laid out with me, and Flo kind of told me how to, really focused. That's where your shit was going to be good as a hybrid bagger, and it drilled in my mind, and that's what was happening is we were getting much higher quality animals than like the purebred, you know, like the pure strains was performing. It's just the way it was. It was always a lot more straightforward, you know. But there again, some of those strains was just straight killers too. But anyhow, that's how we met. It was from some bullshit shit talking, and you know, so I pulled the card. I mean, you can't, like I say, you know, and the dogs, that's what they do. It's oh, they ducking, you know, shit like that. Just because a man says how much, well, that's a little steep, you know. That was a lot of money back then, and folks got to understand, you know, even back then, it was more of a people would group up. You know, you'd have 4 or 5 guys pitching in betting on one dog. It wasn't like that with me. I was right by my fucking lonesome. You know, on that one, I took in a partner to go in because it was too steep. But it's still, that's how it was. I mean, you know, and there again, they would do that. Put up so much money that there's no way you could get on those dogs anyway. You know what I mean? So you're gonna. It's just what I mean is there was different circles. The money didn't mean that the dogs was good, is what I'm saying. I mean, because shit, right before that, I beat a 2-time winner for like, I want to say $500. You know, you could get on a champion, a 2-time winner for like $1,000 fucking dollars. You know what I mean? So it was the time when everything started getting high end. People wanted to join up and team up and partner up, and then they could all put in $1,000. And then you run that son of a bitch up to $5,000. That'd be like betting 20 now. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it shut a lot of people out of the door. You know, where that had good quality dogs. So I tried to stick with that really good group of guys that was the core of the game. That they didn't fucking put no damn journal in. I mean, they didn't claim all that shit. They didn't really even claim titles. Paul started doing that shit, claiming and all them champions and stuff, but you know, that's because he was ready to go ahead and start selling puppies, and that shit didn't work out good for him. They robbed him blind. But you know, that's another thing, man. The game was very, very dirty. There was a lot of dirty motherfuckers in it that would do shit like that. So in a way, the game has changed better. I don't think there's quite as much dog thieving for sure as there was, and but in a way, it's not as good. Like back when it was like that, you proved your dog. People could only talk shit so much, and then it was time to prove it. You know what I mean? And whereas now it's not the case. You know, a lot of folks, you know, just are, I hate to say it, but a lot of guys are more worried about the breeding than the production. You know what I'm saying? Like the pedigree of a dog than actually the dog. But you know, that's how it's going. In some ways, I like the way things are better, and in some ways, I don't, you know. But it is what it is now. But there's still a lot of good dogs. People was asking me about that, too. Do I think the dogs are better now or better back then? I would say you have a lot more dogs being bred that ain't tested now, that are bred strictly for their pedigree, than you did back then. I don't think the dogs are any better. I think there's a lot more. I see a lot of good qualities, and I say all the strains now. Like people would have them things, you know, like the Levi Wrangler shit, you know, that Red Boy don't bite and Eli's not game, you know, all that shit's been fixed now, you know, which I never believed none of that anyway, because I've seen the dogs perform, and that was not the case from what I noticed. None of them fucking things people say. The first time you think that this dog is that way because it's what's, man, you'll learn your lesson. You know what I'm saying? You'll just damn sure learn your lesson. But you know, in some reason, when people are saying those things, it's one strain they seen or 1 or 2 dogs, or you know, the same way when a guy gets one dog that don't work out from somebody that now that breeder sucks and all his shit's garbage. You know, it's never changed. That'll never change. But anyway, folks, we'll get them videos out. But that's how it started, you know, with them. And I mean, there was a lot of times I never would go certain places in dogs, you know, like there were certain people that I just didn't care to be around, you know what I mean? And then you had like the title crew. Everybody wanted a title dog. I just didn't care about that. There's champion makers and champion takers, and back then I loved getting on them dogs that had several hard ones. That was my favorite ones. I get a young fresh dog and go in there and smoke his ass, pretty much what I did to that old dog. I mean, it was not even a fucking contest. You know what I'm saying? But that's how it was back then. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, folks, damn, man, the fucking gnats are getting bad again. But, yeah, it was a fun, fun time in the dogs. It'll never be that way again, but it is what it is. And, but it's not changing. Nothing's changing in these dogs, even when now that we hog hunt all the time. You still got to run in it. You get too many guys together, it's a kindergarten class. You'll hear people talk shit about all of them, from cur dogs to the catch dogs to the fucking, you name it. But anyway, that's how it all started. I'd like to say it was all fucking roses and, you know, shit like that, but it wasn't. And that's how a lot of the shit started, was with that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, folks, y'all take care and keep on bulldogging.